Yes!
Welcome to The Know, I'm Meg Turney.
I'm Ashley Jenkins.
First, they wanted you to fund their game while it was in development. Now, Wildcard Studios, the minds behind the popular dinosaur survival game Ark, want you to beg Sony for an early access program.
Putting you out on the street corner. Come on, guys, what do we have to do? Everything? Next, you're going to start asking us to do the actual game development for you, which, weirdly enough, some gamers might actually pay you for.
Yes.
They might do that.
Might. Don't give them any ideas. I ruined that joke. Sitting down for an interview with GameSpot, Wildcard Studios co-founder Jesse Rapzak, amazing name by the way, spoke on a range of topics concerning his popular early access mega hit, including how Jurassic World helped the game's popularity. He also addressed criticisms of the game's frame rate and discussed the current player count, specifically in regards to Xbox One and Steam's early access programs.
But one of the more interesting parts of the interview, or at least the one that everyone is mining for some headlines, guilty, is when pop idol Rapzak lamented Sony's position on early access. He said, honestly, he's not sure why Ark couldn't be part of one for the PlayStation 4, stating, you know, it's not really up to us. It's the way Sony runs things. The game pretty much has to be finished. Ark is in the state where, at present time, unless it's finished, it's not coming out on PS4 until they have some other program that allows us to do that.
He went on to talk about how ironic it is that PlayStation 4 players are actually going to benefit eventually from all the early testing from the game that it's getting on Xbox One, since ultimately the final releases of both console ports are going to be pretty similar. Rapzak also asked for PS4 users to beg Sony for an early access program and to send him shirtless pictures of Chris Pratt hunting dinosaurs.
You can also send those to me. Just say.
Yeah.
It's actually my request.
Yeah.
All of this does make you wonder, or at least it makes us wonder, why doesn't Sony have their own shiny bug-filled early access program anyway? All the other cool kids are doing it. Like Rooster Teeth, we've got Ruby on early access, and we love it.
Right. We already know that early access is making a killing on Steam. 3 of the top-selling games from 2015 on Steam were early access titles: Ark, Survival Evolved,
Woohoo, Rapzak!
Yes, Besiege, and H1Z1. Now, this is despite the fact that nearly 75% of early access titles go unlaunched since the program started back in 2013.
Not stopping it. Out of the 1.5 billion-ish games owned by players on Steam, nearly 130 million of them are early access or former early access. Thank you, Kerbal Space Program, for setting a good example, according to the data at Steam Spy. When you take the average price of both of those categories and multiply them out by the number of games owned, you get a total of an estimated, and it is a rough estimated, but $1.76 billion. So even a rough estimate is, you know, give or take a couple million. Who even cares at that point? That's a lot of early access sales on Steam in just under 3 years. It could even be more than that depending on when people purchase these titles. That's a lot to pay for bucket games you'll never get to play.
Aw, with numbers like that, it's no wonder that other publishers, developers, platformers, kindergarten teachers, and even your mom are looking into ways to get in on that free money, regardless of not having finished a game to release yet. Microsoft announced its early access program last year at E3 and currently has a handful of games on there in addition to Ark Survival Evolved.
Right now, Layers of Fear, Sheltered, and The Long Dark are all part of Xbox One's Byte Before It's Ready program. We don't know how well those have done exactly, but Elite Dangerous, which used to be on it, has since graduated to a full release. Another round of applause! Those space MMOs grow up so fast, except for Star Citizen, which is a Benjamin Button of video games at this point. We're not gonna let it go.
But Ashley, there's so many features they keep adding every day. We heard you in the comments. We heard you. So far, Ark has been benefiting greatly from the success of Xbox Games Preview. Not only has it had more than 1 million downloads through Microsoft's service, compared to 2.5 million on PC, it's also got more concurrent users than its PC brethren. With Xbox One's 105,000 players a day, the game now has more than 200,000 daily players on both platforms combined. It's probably safe to say that people do love dinosaurs.
Especially when you get to ride them around.
Yes.
Except for Sony, apparently.
Yeah.
They don't like them so much.
Yeah.
Maybe they got burned by the Dino Crisis. The whole subject is too painful for them. Aww. The thing is, Sony actually does have an early access program, sort of. They've basically released just one game in a pre-alpha state, Dungeon Defenders 2. There was also an announcement that DayZ would be coming in some form of pre-release state as well, though we haven't really heard anything about either console version since it got delayed for Xbox's game preview.
Sounds about par for the course with DayZ. So yeah,
Delayed? What? There's a surprise.
Oh, no. So yeah, there is the early access pool on PS4, and it's actually not thriving. Not surprising also. Not that Sony isn't thinking about it, of course. Last summer, SCEA VP Adam Boyes told Gamasutra that Sony has been considering adding some some type of pre-alpha game selection, but feels that the console gamer and PC player could have different sets of expectations, and ultimately they want to protect the consumer.
But if Sony's not willing to do it, plenty of other large developers are starting to set their sights on getting some sweet free money for games that aren't done yet, which we're totally fine with when it's a buggy Bethesda game, apparently. But it's not cool when we're talking about early access. Just don't call it an early access game, then it's a shitty launch.
Yeah, Ubisoft in particular used Steam Early Access as sort of an extended beta for Ghost Recon Online, which is now Ghost Recon Phantoms. The free-to-play game has mostly been met with resoundingly negative ratings on Steam, including ASCII art of someone taking a dump on the game.
High art.
Yes.
Beautiful.
So it's not exactly the best test case. But at the very least, it does show that large publishers and developers are starting to test the waters to see if this is a viable business in the long run.
And of course, with 75% of games never releasing, there are plenty of early access flops. The woes of games like Towns, which sold 2 million copies before ditching the game completely, or The Stomping Land, another dinosaur game that raised over $100,000 through crowdfunding before selling quite a few copies in early access and just completely disappearing. The list goes on, but it's enough to make people pause when it comes to this method of game development.
Yes, in general, there seems to be two viewpoints on early access in general. One mindset says it allows developers to be lazy and piggybacks on naive gamers to fund something that might never actually be finished.
Probably won't ever be finished, given the stats. Or there's the more optimistic view that it allows developers to skip the normal BS that comes with publishing games and to allow gamers to be part of that funding and development process as soon as the game is playable. It's a step past crowdfunding because you're selling people on a game that actually kind of exists and is playable, as opposed to an idea that might only live in a sketchbook in your mom's basement somewhere.
Those mom's basement jokes never get old. Hey. Like it or hate it, early access is here to stay, and given its adoption rate with large platforms like Steam and Microsoft, and just a tiny bit of innocent flirting on PlayStation 4, it's on its way to being just as normal as the traditional method of publishing games. Whether or not guys like Microsoft or Sony find reason to expand these platforms does remain to be seen, but so far it seems like games like Ark and Minecraft have worked out extremely well for them so far.
Regardless of how you feel about it, it's powered some of the more unique and interesting games that we've seen over the last few years, and some of the biggest meltdowns, but that's also part of the fun, isn't it?
Oh yes. So come on, Sony, get with the times. Let's roll the dice together. It gives us more stuff to talk about.
We love talking about when stuff breaks. We love being mad. Help us hate you.
Yes.
What do you guys think of early access growing and moving on to bigger platforms? Do you want to see it on PlayStation 4, or do you feel protected not having it? And what early access game have you bought, and why is it Ruby Grimaclips?
And why is it Ruby Grimaclips?
Yeah,
because
that's
I bet
right.
you did get it.
Better
You
be.
better get it. For all the latest on unfinished games.
Z-Snaps, I think.
And Z-Snaps, like this video and subscribe to the Know.
I feel like when I'm talking to other people, should it be like, should you usually Z-snap the other way so it looks like a Z to them, or do you snap a Z to you?
I Z to myself.
So it should be Z to you.
Yeah, it's a Z to me.
Otherwise, if I'm doing like this, then it's a Z to me, but it's an opposite Z to other people.
Yeah, but here's the thing is, like, I don't care about other people's, like, perception of my Z. I'm gonna do my own Z, because it's my Z. It's like, that's, like, I feel like it would be called, like, a reverse Z-snap, if I...
You can trademark that.
Yeah, the reverse Z-snap.
Reverse Z-snap.
You can
I don't
trademark
feel like
anything
you
these
should.
days.
Maybe I also
Anything.
feel like it's basically what hand you are, because you cross over first. So if you're a
You are
left
right.
hand, you're other-handed. So I feel like you're gonna go in first. You're gonna go the Z this way. It's very uncomfortable that we're Z-snapping.